Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the weekly Shonen Jump Breakdown for the week of February 18th. My name is Trey. I just really got settled in from my trip that I was gone all week for. So this one's going to be going up a little bit late, but let's go ahead and just get started. You guys didn't come here to listen to my life story. This week we start with One Punch Man 80, Depleted. So remember last week when I said that we were either going to get Garo losing or Garo taking that next step to become that monster and was just going to go ham. Well, Garo goes ham this chapter. And we get to see more of his character, too. We get to see a younger Garo as he's, sensing the disappointment that the monsters are feeling as well, and how that affects him and how other people immediately turn against him with that. We then see him fight with everything he's got, tooth and nail. Lets himself be caught by Chain Toad, which allows him to cut the string on Smile Man's Kodama, and then use the Kodama ball to take out Chain Toad, and bang bang. He takes out Wild Bison because of that, because Garo is waiting for Bison to break it with his pile bunk, the Wild Horn. It's not Wild Bison, it's Wild Horn. I don't know why I wrote Wild Bison on there. I clearly wrote Wild Horn next time. Regardless, Wild Horn breaks it with his pile bunker, and Garo just is in the pile, like inside the Kodama ball immediately. As soon as it breaks, he's in there. And uses Wild Horn as a shield in a really cool way. He finishes off Shooter by grabbing the rocks that Megane throws. What I really love about this moment as heroes start dropping is that we saw that really powerful kill box they set up, and how Gatling didn't even have to do anything because the way the kill box worked, him shooting would have killed Garo. But because they didn't want to kill, because they wanted to go ahead and, take him alive so they could prove they were better than the S-Class heroes, they're losing. Because once he was trapped in that kill box long enough, sorry, I've been gone for a while, the cat's listening, so you're going to see them in the background. Once he's been in that kill box long enough, Garo is able to figure out a workaround. And that workaround is when he uses Chain Toad against everyone else, and then Smile Man's Kodama against everyone else. Just such a good moment as he systematically destroys the kill box by finding a single weakness and working it in. And honestly, it's a weakness that I didn't think of, but as soon as he did it, I was like, of course, makes perfect sense. Chain Toad is the weak link here because Chain Toad is the one that has a weapon that can be pulled back, that can be used as a counterweight to pull Chain Toad into range or to pull Chain Toad out of the kill box, or basically into the kill box, which then leaves a hole. And once that hole's there, he can break down every piece as he goes. There's a really cool moment, though, when Death Gatling joins the fight, and Garo drops his smile, because he's been having a good time, he's taking out all these heroes, he's having a blast. Now he can't have as much fun anymore, because Death Gatling is now going to fight. Stinger can't get a good hit in. Garo taunts him, Stinger falls for the taunt, and then grabs a root, and, pulls it up out of the ground, and uses that to take out Smile Man. Uses that chance he's got. And then we get to see Megane and Stinger both putting up a great fight. But now that it's one-on-one with each of them, really, Garo is just destroying them. Man, this chapter was already really cool. But the moment when Death Gatling unloads, and Garo defends the boy by standing in front of the shack and deflecting the bullet. I mean, every single bullet in the bullet rain. Just, the death shower. Sorry. Oh man. And I think it's both parts for Garo. That, yeah, he didn't want this kid to just die. What's the point in that? But he also wanted to see if he could do it. And the fact that Garo is so careless isn't the right word. Reckless isn't the right word. Willing to throw himself into danger like that to make himself stronger is why he's the living monster. It's why he's the human monster. Why he's the hero killer. The fact that he throws himself into the death shower and blocks deflects all the bullets. He had no idea going into that if he could do it or not. But he thought there was a chance he might, so he had to try it. Not had to try it because he didn't have a choice, had to try it because he wanted to see if he was right. And so this moment where he takes him out, Gatling's on the ground, and Garrou's like, if you'd have called for help, you'd have had me. And then Ginro shows up. And Garrou literally looks shocked. And Megane called for help. I love this chapter. This is such a good chapter. 2 thumbs up for sure. This chapter's great. I don't even really have that much more to say about it. Like, you have Garrou is getting all this development. We're getting to see that he is, honestly, like the reverse Saitama in a way. In that he is living his life facing these challenges, getting better and better and better and better and better to the point where he is fighting all these heroes after being poisoned, after already being knocked out by Saitama. Let me remind you, this man has already been hit by Saitama and knocked away, and like not even a full punch, but still, he got slapped back by Saitama, and like, he's still fighting. And not only is he still fighting, but he's winning. I'm not saying that we're going to get to a moment where Garrou can actually take on Saitama, because I don't think that'll happen. I don't think anybody can actually take on Saitama. I think he's always going to just destroy them, because that's the point. But Garrou is a threat to everyone else. And we haven't really felt that. Like, when Saitama's on screen, it's like, yeah, everybody's fine. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. But the last time we felt this moment of, like, what are we going to do? This is terrible, was probably with the Sea King fighting Licensed Rider. It's like, nobody can beat this guy. We know Saitama can beat him, but Saitama's not here right now. And there's also this part of us that kind of is rooting for Garrou. Now that Genos has showed up, I'm sure a lot of people are going to just immediately go, no, Genos, obviously. Of course I'm behind Genos. But it's just a little funny, in my opinion, that he's grown on us like he has. Because I've seen a lot of people going, yeah, Garrou's my favorite character now. So, yeah, this was a great chapter. Absolutely amazing. Wonderful. 2 thumbs up. Next up, we have One Piece 895, Luffy the Pirate versus General Katakuri. Snake Man! Oh, man, Snake Man's so hype. So, remember, like maybe 4 or 5 chapters ago, when Katakuri does that thing where donuts show up in the air, and his arm comes out of him and does stuff, and he, like, uses Mochi to do that, and I was like, that's super cool, there's only one thing that I like more. This is that thing that I like more. When you get speed on your attacks, not because you're moving faster, but because you're sending them out and elongating them and bringing it back for a punch. There's been some great moments with, like, Mr. Fantastic and Elastic Man have done some cool stuff like that. Probably the one that immediately comes to mind for me is Aquarian, where the fist just, like, goes forward on this infinite chain, and the further out it goes, the faster it gets and more powerful it gets, because it's gaining velocity. The fact that that is what the Jet Culverin is, and that Katakuri for a minute is like, what? Huh? And just is getting slapped around by it a little bit. Like, it's really cool. Katakuri also has a new form in this chapter. Donut form. I love Katakuri. Can we get a Katakuri side story? Can we get a Katakuri side story manga? Or a Katakuri movie, please? He just rolls up into donut form and rolls towards his enemies, and then comes out of donut form with like with a clothes hanger. Katakuri side story win. Come on, Oda. I know you want to write it too. Katakuri's the best. We also get to see Katakuri being a beast and just driving Luffy into the ground. We also get a really cool thing where, I don't know if it's because it's Snake Man or just because of how tired Luffy is at this point. I'm assuming it's because of Snake Man. But Luffy is basically saying everything he's thinking, and once he said it all, he feels better. And can focus on the fight again. But Katakuri, towards the end of this chapter, figures out how Snake Man works with it culvering in and around and coming back. There's a really interesting moment where we get Black Mamba versus Buzzcut Mochi. And I think next chapter might be the end of this fight. I think next chapter could be the final chapter of this fight. Or next chapter will be set up again, and the chapter after that will be the next fight. The final part of the fight. But we will see. We will see. Next up, we have Black Clover 145, Julius and Novachrono. I called it! Just want to make sure that's on the table. Remember when I said, wouldn't this fight be cooler if Licht and Julius himself were using those light arrows like swords? I'm not going to say that I'm the only person who thought of that, because I'm not. I'm just going to say I called it. Because that moment where, just stabs him, it's a very good panel. And despite the fact that I still really don't like this fight, and the fact that I still really don't like Licht, it was a really nice panel. And there were some really good panels all across in here. The arrows above the city, and Licht standing, and there was some really cool stuff. We get to see how Julius feels about things, and then he counters the light rain with chrono anastasis. That was pretty cool. Getting to see that arrows were right above their heads, and the chronostasis kind of hits them in the middle of the arrow and makes them vanish. Shows how close it was, even with Novachrono's ability to control time. I also thought it was really interesting that Licht had set up an arrow for each citizen. He wasn't just firing arrows willy-nilly. It was one aim for each person in the city. In the whole kingdom of Clover. And what's really cool about that is that when he did that, I was like, oh man, this is going to consume a lot of mana. He's probably going to be burned out after this. This fight's going to be over when Julius just turns time back and stops it. But, although I'm sure that it still cost a lot of mana, since there was one aim for every citizen, I'm assuming that it probably costs a little bit more per arrow to line them up, but you also don't have to fire as many arrows as you would if you wanted to level the entire kingdom. So that was pretty cool. I am curious though, what about the people that were inside? Did you aim one for each of them too? Because if so, did you have to use mana to sense how many people were in each building? For the people walking the street, yeah, sure, you can see them down there. That makes sense. But I just immediately was like, I guess mana sensing would allow you to do that. Moving on. Hunter x Hunter 374, ability. Verge is not going to budge. And Kurapika does not like that. He has to give up some ground, but Verge still doesn't trust him at the end of it. We get a Garden Prince update, and that's pretty cool. I really don't like Verge has an interesting design. I feel like he could be a really cool character. I don't know. By this point, I'm 100% on Kurapika's side, and people by this point, yeah, they still shouldn't trust him, but he's given up a lot of information, and he's not getting a lot back. I don't know. We also get to see that Kacho, you have to forgive me, I'm very tired. Kacho and Fugetsu meet up again thanks to Fugetsu's ability, and we get to see Melody, which is pretty cool. She notices that something's going on with Kacho and Fugetsu leaves again. And then she starts to tell Kacho about Nin, which is probably going to wind up being a mistake, to be honest. But maybe it'll help keep Kacho alive? I don't know. Man, Rand's Predator ability is pretty cool. It's pretty nice. I like that. Where once he figures out the exact, weakness, he has to figure out exactly fully how a ability works, but once he's completely figured out, he can kill that person. And then Sale Sale's completely insane ability that is really powerful, that, slowly, here come the cats, slowly converts people to his side, because it slowly builds the idea of, hey buddy, how's it going? Slowly builds the idea of, loyalty in their minds, and then once it's built enough, it plants a little mini version of itself up there, and as they go around and interact with other people, they get infected by it too. It's really powerful. It's really cool. And then, of course, Zhang Li's base is, Beast is dropping coins. Something going on there. So yeah, this chapter was fine. We got to see some cool abilities, some cool stuff. If you don't stop moving the chair and making it make noise, I'm not going to be happy with you. Next up, we have My Hero Academia 171, Gentle and La Brava. We get to see some villains that look pretty cool. Destro and OG Harima. These are villains that Gentle Criminal, the Gentleman Scoundrel. By the way, I wish that was my name. Although you'd probably always thought you were a criminal. That he thinks were some of the bigwigs in villainy, including, of course, All for One. But there's some really interesting things here. Destro looks like a mix between Kefka and the Joker, and I thought that was really cool. And then OG Harima. That's an interesting villain name, especially because, again, you guys know how much I love to reference School Rumble in this show, because how often the references are made. And yet again, I see OG Kurasama and Kenji Harima into OG Harima. I'm not saying that Horikoshi really likes School Rumble or anything. I'm just saying that there's a ton of references to School Rumble all the time, and I love that. OG Harima looks really cool, by the way, too. Like, he looks pretty cool. And OG, of course, is another way to say Prince. So, there's that. And I'm sorry, I mixed those up. I put my notes here and I didn't put them in the right order. OG Harima is the clown who looks like a mix between the Joker and Kefka. And Destro just looks really cool. So, these are cool looking villains. It's a little weird that we get their names just out of the blue like this, but at some point you gotta introduce them, and you just introduced Gentle, so why not some more villains? I'm sure they'll pop up again in the future. Don't claw me, please. I'm sure they'll pop up again in the future because Horikoshi loves to bring villains back, and I love when villains come back too, so that's fine. We get to see that Gentle is having trouble with getting views, and ever since Stain and the League of Villains have popped up and done a lot of stuff, they get all the hits, and Brava's not happy about that. We get to see a really cool scene a really cute scene, I guess, where she's watching one of his original intro videos, and she's super hype about it because it takes her back. We get to see that Gentle wants to pull off a caper that all the kids would appreciate. And we, speaking of kids, get to see that the rest of the school isn't super happy about the classes plan to play a little play thing. What's the word, buddy? Come on, give me the word. To play music for them to make them feel better. Can't think of the word. There's a word for it. Concert. That's the word. It's concert. You didn't tell me that, though. That would have been nice if you had. The rest of the class really doesn't like that. Or the rest of the school does not like it. And we get to see Sero trick Bakugo into playing the drums for everybody. And Bakugo tells them, hey, why do you think they'll appreciate this? No, we're not going to appease everybody. Instead of trying to make them all feel better, let's murder them with music. And that gives Jiro the push that she needs to go ahead and, be wholeheartedly into this plan. And I really like that of all people, it was Bakugo that noticed this. Because it shows that he is still growing as a character, and I love that. I say last arc, still this arc, I guess. We got to see the stuff with Bakugo paying attention to the kids and figuring out what they actually needed to do. And then here we get to see Bakugo's figured out the heart of the rest of the students. He is going to be a great hero one day, once he gets all the rest of his stuff figured out, and I'm very excited for that. And then finally, Gentle's going to attack the school, because of course he is. I mean, we all knew it was going to happen. We knew he was going to wind up in the middle of this arc, and we knew that somehow he's going to wind up trying to kidnap Eri. That's just the way that it's going to happen, and my cat just jumped down and shook the desk and everything. But that's fine. So this was a really fun chapter. I really liked it. And getting to see Destro and OG Harima was really cool. Moving on. Robot Laserbeam 45. Ginro cross Robo. This is kind of a fun chapter. A lot of comedy in this chapter as Ginro winds up helping Robo and high-fiving him. Winds up cheering him on as well when they're all celebrating Robo's win. Before telling Robo that his golfing is kind of boring and insulting Yozan, which sets Robo off. Then there's this really weird moment where this Peeping Tom tries to run off from the hot spring, and Ginro gets a golf ball from Tomoya, and when Robo doesn't have one, he's like, what kind of golfer are you that you don't have a golf ball on you? But Ginro also didn't have a golf ball on him. And then uses a broom to hit a suit of armor to make it fall on the guy. Which, that's a very impressive shot. That's pretty cool. It's supposed to show that Ginro is unconventional and is a better shot than you would expect him to be, despite the fact that he's kind of a fun guy, and he's not really an enemy to Robo, even though he views Robo as his rival. It's kind of what they did with Sendo in Hajime no Ippo, where they want to show you that Sendo and Ippo could be friends, but they're also rivals, and they want to show you that Sendo's a threat. The difference is, they showed us Sendo was a threat by just telling us immediately and letting us see his picture on posters that he'd been winning a lot of matches. And then we got to that cool moment where Ippo watches Sendo box on tape and gets to see Sendo's really good. This is a really awkward way to do this, and it was funny because it was ridiculous. But when the police don't believe it either, I was like, yeah, of course they don't. Who would ever believe that somebody hit a golf ball into a suit of armor with a broom to knock it onto a peeping Tom? Like, that's ridiculous. So yeah. Chapter. I enjoyed it, at least. It was fun. It just didn't succeed, I believe, in what it was trying to do, which was to set Ginro up as this unconventional but very strong golfer. Next up, we have Food Wars 251, Uninvited Guests. Azami shows up with 2 new judges, Decora and Courage. Courage, by the way, seems to be 100% in the Azami camp, not for the money, but for Azami, which kind of surprised me, because Azami is kind of a scumbag. He then demands the other judges step down, and he wants to take over. He throws shade at Soma, and good on Soma, he throws it right back. Rendo's not happy. Nobody's happy, really. And Una is able to keep her seat by agreeing that, yes, the other 2 will leave, but she needs to stay, because not the entire team needs to leave. And so Azami and Decora take the other 2 seats. There's a really cool moment here where Decora and Courage start bagging on Une, and I was like, please don't let this be the rest of the chapter. Like, I still want to get to this fight between Aldini and Takumi and Rendo, but like, they're bagging on her and everything, and almost immediately it just goes, yeah, you look like her and her mix. And I took for a second, and I was like, oh, no, she does, though. Like, older her is just Nene and Megumi put together. That's really clever, because it's calling out that there are a lot of similarities in some of the characters by the author. The author is calling themselves out while also making an in-universe joke. I love that. That was really cool. That's a lot of fun. We see Soma, Yukihira Soma, get super excited, because this means that when it comes time to cook, he'll get to punch Azami in the face with flavor. And that was probably my favorite line of this entire issue this week. That was a great line. Super happy about that. And then we can see that Aldini is watching Rendo. Megishima told him that she was conflicted because she's not really sure if she wants to be working for Azami, it seems like. And he looks at her and doesn't see a tough opponent like he normally would, but instead sees her puffing herself up kind of to reflect danger like an animal. And so this is all set up, I believe, from what most likely is going to be Rendo switching sides by either stepping out of the competition or by Takumi beating her and her being like, you know what? I don't really want to work for Azami anyway. Yeah, no, he won. So, we'll see. I expect that to happen, though. Next up, we have Dr. Stone 46, Stone Wars. We get to see Hyoga, Tsukasa's right-hand man, and this chapter takes this story from a story all about science to a battle manga really quickly, and does not hold back. And we figured that's what Stone Wars, the arc, was going to be, but because it's Tsukasa's army attacking. But we get to see Ginro standing on the bridge, and he's intending to die holding it so that Ginro can cut it and protect the village. One of Tsukasa's men tries to attack, but Hyoga stops him, basically like kicks him, and is like, what are you doing, you idiot? No, why would you attack him with a sword when he's got a spear and he has the better ground? He was just going to kill you. And as soon as Hyoga steps up to fight, he recognizes Kinro's eyesight problem. There's a couple things about this that I really like. Because I did see some people being like, oh, it's hacks that Hyoga figured it out. It's like, no, it's not really. Because you have dim lighting, because it's just by moonlight. And you have the fact that when the other guy was jumping up to attack, Kinro's spear was not centered in the middle of his chest. It was kind of off to the left. Maybe Ginro was going for a heart stab, but most likely he couldn't gauge the distance well enough to know exactly where he'd be hitting. Hyoga figures it out based on a lot of things, I'm sure. The way that Kinro's looking, where Kinro's looking at, the distance that he's holding his spear at. There's a lot of things that could give away that somebody can't quite see distance well. And Hyoga takes advantage of it. Ginro tries, but Hyoga stabs him. And it looks visceral, like it's a good stab. Like it's a bad stab for Ginro, but it's a good looking stab. And then Ginro grabs his leg as he's falling off the bridge to stop Hyoga from being able to move forward, while yelling at Ginro to cut the bridge. It's a really powerful moment as these two brothers are there, and Ginro doesn't want Ginro to die. But Ginro knows that Kinro's probably not coming back from this one. And Ginro knows that Kinro's probably not coming back from this one. And Senku intervenes. Thank goodness Senku intervened. He used the last of his gunpowder, but thank goodness Senku intervenes. Because now there's a chance that they could save Kinro's life. Because Hyoga was probably going to finish him off. But it's a really cool plan that they come up with, too, where Yen tells Magma to throw a stone, and right as Senku fires off the gunpowder while holding a symmetrical metal tube up, Magma throws the stone so that the sound is followed by this big old stone hitting the water, which leads them to believe that they missed. And Gen comes running out, telling Hyoga they gotta retreat, the village has figured out guns. And then Hyoga sees Senku, who gives himself away so that they'll leave, who then taunts him and Tsukasa. So Senku has effectively saved Kinro's life. Now, Kinro's probably going to be out of action for a little bit, but the law of Shonen states, if you have a character who had a big problem they couldn't get over before, and they almost die but don't quite die, when they come back, they get to be a beast. So, most likely, by the time he comes back, Senku's made him some glasses. Or, alternatively, they make him a robot. I don't think that'll happen, but just imagine for just a minute, Ginro comes back as a robot. Think about it. And of course, there's the possibility that Ginro dies. I don't want him to die. I really like Ginro. But there's the possibility that he does, and we have to see Ginro step up again. But we'll find out. I'm really looking forward to where the rest of this arc goes, how they're going to be able to fight off Tsukasa, who is coming for them now, especially now that he knows for sure Senku's still alive. And it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm excited. Next up, we have We Neverland 51. With the changing season, a genius experiences the sorrow of X. Ogata accidentally cuts her bangs too short because her dad interrupts her while she's trying to cut her hair. And at first she has no problem with it. Everybody's like, oh, it looks good. And then when Yuiga walks up, she runs off. Because all of a sudden she realizes she can't let him see her with her hair that way, because that's her crush. Sekijo shows up with a new look, and it makes her even more nervous. So she wears a mask to the study session. Yuiga is now afraid that maybe he did something wrong. And there's some really cool moments here where Furuhashi is thinking of Yuiga and that he feels bad about this and thinks that maybe he did something wrong. And Ogata's making a mistake here. But in her mind, she doesn't call him Yuiga, even though she calls him Yuiga out loud. In her mind, she calls him Nariyuki. It's important to note, because it shows that she has come along further again, and she is now fully in the I Love Yuiga camp, and by calling him by his first name. We eventually get to see Furuhashi just take the mask off, and Yuiga doesn't recognize the difference at all. Which is the biggest faux pas you can do. And it's not his fault, but it is at the same time. A lot of people make this mistake. I don't know if you've ever gotten a haircut yourself and people didn't notice it and it made you go, oh, what I even bother for? But sometimes people just don't pay attention to details like that. At the same time, it is his fault and isn't his fault, so he tries to make it up for her because he can't figure it out. So he calls her by her first name. And that, calling her Rizu gets her attention. He tells her that her expression has changed. That must be what it is. And goes on to say that, she's more comfortable around him because they trust each other more, which makes her feel a whole lot better. She then tells him that he doesn't have to say her first name right now. It's a bit too much right now, because she's not used to it. And then her dad's still not allowed inside. So this was a fun Ogata chapter. There's a lot of fun stuff that happened in this chapter. How do I put this? Ogata's great. I didn't really care about a lot of the Ogata stuff this chapter. I think everything to do with Yuiga not recognizing the shorter bangs, yes, that's great. That's really good, moving forward with the relationship that he has with all three of these characters, because he's now shown all of them that, yes, he pays attention, but maybe not to everything. Yuiga is still trying to focus on his studies while tutoring these girls, so he's not going to be paying attention to everything, which is not an excuse, it's just the truth. And there were some really good gags of, Ogata blowing everything out of proportion and being super nervous about it, because it's her first time, feeling like this about anybody. And I liked all that stuff. It was just at that final couple moments with her and Yuiga, just felt a little off to me. The moment where Yuiga's talking about how they trust each other, she gets this look on her face that is her very embarrassed, obviously, and she's appreciating it, but it also looks like maybe she didn't appreciate the way that he said it. Maybe it sounds too much like we're friends to her, and that's the way he meant it. But it was weird that, I don't know. Maybe it's not that I didn't like it, it's that I wasn't, let me reword this. I wasn't expecting her reaction to be that. Because had it been Uruka, or had it been Asami, the reaction would have just been for Uruka it would have just been happy. For Asami it would have been teasing. For Furuhashi would have acted like it never happened. And Ogata normally would just be quiet about it. But the look on her face instead was I wish she'd said something different. Maybe the reason that felt so off to me is that maybe we're moving forward and we're getting progression. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. But there were some really good gags, and Sekijo showed up again this chapter, so, it's a good chapter. Finally, we end everything off with the Promised Neverland 75 Unyielding read. We get confirmation that Luvis killed that man's family, and that Lucas and his group have seen countless kids die, which is heartbreaking, by the way. That, they haven't saved everybody they could have, because the group can't be too big, and they absolutely feel the guilt of that. Emma talks to Theo, finally convinces him to eat. And Theo is doing his best. He's having a tough time of it. And the group decided to tell everybody else, but the hunt is called early. And Luvis is coming out to play. And a lot of these characters are about to die. One of the first ones to die is probably going to be Theo. All I want is the moment where Lucas and that man fight Luvis. I want that moment so badly. And maybe the end of that fight is Lucas dying to protect that man, and we finally find out that man's name, and that man kills Luvis, and then tears Goldie Pond down. We'll have to wait and see. But I want to see that fight. And maybe the fight winds up being Emma versus Luvis. Either way, I'm happy. Finally, for our lightning round this week, One Punch Man 80 Depleted, one of the best chapters of the year. Absolutely, really loved seeing this and the previous chapter coming together, and seeing, Megane throwing away his pride to summon help, because they needed it. That was really cool. And this was a really fun series of chapters with the kill box and working the way out of it and everything. A lot of fun. One Piece 895, Luffy the Pirate vs. General Katakuri, Donut Katakuri, Snake Man, really short chapter, really fun. Absolutely loved it. Looking forward to more. Black Clover 145, Julius Novachrono, I called it. One thumb up. Very much enjoyed a lot of the stuff about this chapter. I called it. Lizard King's probably not dead, though. Just going to call that now. Probably not dead. Hunter x Hunter 374, Ability. Perfectly middling. This chapter had some fun moments to it, but it also had some not so fun moments to it. And although the abilities are really cool, I don't know. We'll see how they turn out. Could be really good later on. My Hero Academia 171, Gentle and La Brava. Fun chapter. Really liked it. Enjoyed everything with Bakugo. Enjoyed seeing those other villains. Gentle's a lot of fun. His reasoning to go to the school festival makes sense, but it didn't really sell me on it. So, it was fine. It was fine. Gotta get the villain there somehow. Robot Laserbeam 45, Ginro Robo. I'm gonna give this one a flat even too. It just, I don't know. It didn't succeed in what it was trying to do, but I got the point of it, so I guess in a way it still succeeded on what it was trying to do. It's completely even for me. Food Wars 251, Uninvited Guest. Really good chapter. Soma wants to punch Azumi in the face with flavor, and that's always great. It's wonderful. Stone Wars! From Dr. Stone 46 Stone Wars. 2 thumbs up. Great chapter. Absolutely loved it. Kinro, the fight on the bridge. Really cool, really clever response and way to work around for it. Can't wait for more. We Never Learned 51 with a changing season. A genius experience of Star of X. 1 thumb up. Fun chapter. Ogata is absolutely fine. She's not one of my favorites. She's not one of my least favorites. This is an Ogata chapter, so you know how that goes. And this one at least didn't have anything to do about her bust size. So 1 thumb up. The Promised Neverland 75, Unyielding read. 1 thumb up. The hunt is called early, which is a really hype moment. But other than that, there weren't really that many moments in this chapter that really brought a lot in. We find out some backstory, and we get to see Theo some more, but that's really about it. So 1 thumb up. Really fun chapter. Really good issue of Jump this week. Enjoyed a lot of the chapters. And didn't really have any that I hated, so, that's always good. But we'll be back next week, probably actually in just a few days, with another exciting episode of the Weekly Shonen Jump Breakdown. I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that Jump has to offer.